You're listening to episode 165 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is and I do mean the family ministry podcast. It helps you connect the church and home. Hey, we're going to be playing some video games today, Ron.
I love video games.
Do
I was
you really?
raised in the does that surprise you?
Well, yeah, it kind of does. I mean, you are a gamer currently. You have a gaming system in your house.
No.
Yeah, see.
No, you know what I do? I play on my iPad.
Oh, see, that's true.
I have a golf game and a bow and arrow game that I play.
Arrow and golf?
Yes, I do. It's kind of weird.
Now, back in the day, what was the first gaming system you ever owned?
Atari.
I was Commodore 64.
Okay.
So, yeah. What was your favorite old school video game that you played?
Pac-Man and Galaga. The two really close. I cut my teeth on Pac-Man, but I'm a Galaga guy. So Pac-Man's what got me into video games. Galaga is what kept me there. And then Centipede and, the many others, the original Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, all of those. So how about you? What was your favorite? I mean, my mom this was right about the time my parents divorced. And I think and let me say this for the parents listening, it was easy for me to get lost in a video game to ignore what was going on around me. Mm-hmm. But my mom would get so upset because I asked her, because I was, 12, 13, 14 at this point, hey, can I have $10? She's like, what you going to do? I'm going to play Pac-Man. You can't spend $10. And, it was easy for me to just pump quarters into that machine. Mm-hmm. And it frustrated her. And $10 was a lot back then.
Yeah. So,
yeah, she let me, but it was a source of tension. And I know that's where we're going today.
Absolutely.
What was your game? What did you get buried in?
I loved all the games you mentioned, but I was more in the sports games. So Tecmo Bowl. And those who play Tecmo Bowl understand you always wanted Bo Jackson. He was untackleable.
Okay.
I don't know that that's a word, but I feel
untackleable.
That
sounds like the title of a book.
Untackleable. It rolls on the tongue really well.
Oh yes.
And then a game called NBA Jam. I missed a lot of college classes playing NBA Jam.
Did you play it in college classes behind your book?
No, I would not go.
Okay.
In fact, one time, one of my buddies, I beat him in NBA Jam, got very upset. He was salty about it and went on to class. And I stayed back and played some other people, and I got a phone call from my professor. Said, hey, your buddy just showed up and told me you're in the room because he was salty. I beat him.
Oh, yeah.
And so you need to stop right now and come to class. And
you hung behind to enter your initials in those top spots, didn't you?
Exactly.
Did you remember doing that?
Yes.
Move the thing around?
Oh, it was addictive.
What's your middle initial?
S, but I'm not going to tell you what it's for. I've received a lot of, I'll go ahead and tell you. I shouldn't be ashamed. My middle name is Sherman, and there's a certain movie. There's a certain movie where an older lady just goes Sherman, 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 and everybody does that to me. Did I just break another copyright law, producer Brett? That's okay. Good.
We just lost the audience because everybody's doing Sherman, Sherman, Sherman.
I didn't name the movie. And yes, no Sherman tweets, people. I'm sensitive about it. I'm a feeler, okay? I'm a feeler. Now, listen, Tony Bianco is going to be our guide today. He's been on the show before. That's where I met him, and he's actually done a lot of technology stuff for us over at Parent Ministry. He's just a great resource. I said before he has had he worked for the Apple Store. He's worked for GameStop. He's got some really good technology background, but he is currently the middle school minister at First Baptist Church of Houston, a ginormous Reformed Church where he has big responsibilities. So out of those two worlds, he has done some amazing work with families and technology, and he's going to be guiding us today. And I'm going to tell you, Ron, this is huge topic right now.
Yes, it is.
In my world, we put out a resource on Fortnite. And within the first week, 3,000 people downloaded it. And the ministers right now are being overwhelmed over this game Fortnite with questions and people not knowing how to do it. So Tony is one of the ones who's helped us put out resources for that. We're going to be talking about that during this interview. He is a great guy.
He absolutely is. And you're right.
Do you know what Fortnite is?
I do.
Really?
I do.
Again, in your world, because kids aren't at your house.
No, they're not.
How do you know?
I will say I've heard a lot about it. I've never played it. I'm not even sure I've seen it, but I've heard a lot about that item.
Well, I can pull it up on the computer. We can run some squads after the podcast.
Why don't we do that during the commercial break? I want to see what the animation looks like on this. That would be fun. But
guys,
no,
I bet you money Ron's going to be the one hiding in the bush. And of course, now you got military background. I bet you'll run right in, guns blazing, and just
my son and I used to play Tom Clancy. There was a game that was on his Xbox. And he loved the running right in, but I always picked the sniper rifle.
Yeah. So that's you. That's good.
Me. I want to, I saw a bumper sticker recently said sniper, you can run, but you'll just be tired when I kill you.
See, and that's why we don't mess with Ron here at D6 Family. All right. Hey, listen, Tony's going to be with us after the break, but before we move on, let's talk about you guys are just like throwing resources out like crazy. And one of the ways we serve our audience here is by just letting them know what y'all are bringing out. And so today I want to talk about, you've been talking about Lissy Reno for a while, and she actually has a new book. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, let's go back to this game thing for a second. The question we often get from parents is, how do I get my kids off the gaming system? Go back to what I said earlier about I was putting quarters in the machine to kind of escape the world that my parents was going through a divorce during that period of time. Lissy was invited to be part of our Connect tour last year, and here's the deal. We had Dr. Edward Moody, Dr. Mark Smith, myself, and Lissy and Amy Reno as speakers out there. And we would all speak. And then at the end, we'd have a panel discussion, and everybody in the room could ask questions like a town hall of people at the panel. Well, we have this most accomplished counselor, Dr. Edward Moody. We had the head of family ministry for Southern Baptist in the state of North Carolina, and Dr. Mark Smith. We've got myself, kind of, not anybody special. We got Amy Reno, who's published a couple of books with her husband, Rob. But you know who all got the questions?
Lissy.
Yes. And here's why. Her topic was, let you get in the mind of your teenager when you're intending to say this or you're intending to do that. Here's how your kids are processing it. Here's how you can connect to our hearts. And every minister and parent in that room wanted to know more about how to do that better. And that is exactly what her book is about. For our listeners, I happen to know these are all solid parents. They are solid in their faith. They're solid in their walk. And their kids are probably some of the better kids out there. But they don't always sense that we're treating them like they're doing all the things well. They're always doing things wrong. And she really helps bring balance and perspective to that in her book. And if ever we needed to do a paradigm shift and get in the heads of our kids, it's during those teenage years as they're approaching, they're developing, they're finding their young ladyhood, their young manhood. And we need to see it from their angle, and so that we can better communicate, better coach, better disciple them through that period of time. That's what her book helps us do.
Sounds like a great resource. People can grab that book at d6family.com as usual. So we're about to go to break, and after the break, we'll be back with my man Tony Bianco talking about gamers, Fortnite, video games, helping parents manage all of that craziness in their house. He's going to guide you through it after the break. Talk to you then.
Hi, this is Rob Reno with Visionary Family Ministries. Do you have a plan for helping your children and grandchildren love and follow Jesus? I have to confess that for the first 10 years of our family life, I was adrift. I didn't have a clear picture of God's purpose for our family, but it's never too late with God. He used his word in my life to turn my heart to my children and to give Amy and me a shared vision and purpose for our home and specific action steps that we could take to do all in our power to help our children love and follow God. Amy and I share the ups and downs of our journey and the scriptures that transformed our family in our book, Visionary Parenting. And I'm convinced God can use the same scriptures that transformed our family to transform yours.
Hey, everybody. We have had Tony on our podcast before, but we get to have him again. And today's topic, I think, is something you are going to be very interested in. We're going to talk about how to minister to parents of gamers. This is something that pretty much most of you, I would say, have some kind of parent asking you questions about video games, and our resident expert here, Mr. Tony Bianco, will be helping us. Tony graduated from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary with his Master's of Divinity. He married his high school sweetheart, convinced her to marry him. And I'm pronouncing, you say Diamond, like the jewel, right?
Diamond, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, now what a name. That's amazing. And together they have two amazing kids. He serves currently as the middle school student minister at Houston's First Baptist Church, huge, influential, awesome church. And then prior to full-time ministry, here's what makes Tony kind of interesting in the technology space. He was a radio DJ, a product reviewer, GameStop manager, and an Apple Store expert. So he's got that technology background. And again, Tony's another one of those. I founded a ministry called Parent Ministry, and Tony writes a ton of our technology. Well, he's basically our exclusive technology guy and handles a lot for us there in the parent ministry world as well. So it's an honor to have you here on the D6 podcast, Mr. Tony Bianco.
I'm honored to be here with you guys today. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, we've interviewed you before, and those of you that are listeners may recognize Tony. If you don't recognize him, you can go back and check out his previous episode. But that was more technology-based in general. But today I want to hit video games, and one of the things I'm going to bring up.
All right, let's hear it. Is it Fortnite?
The Fort of the Night. Yes. This, because, we video gamers and gamers, there is a portion of them that are going to be dedicated to whatever game is out. But then every once in a while, and we're in one of those modes, a game comes along that turns almost everybody into a gamer. It just has viral acceptance, and that's where we are with Fortnite. So
totally.
And parents are freaked out about Fortnite. That's kind of what's going on right now. And so let's just start there for a second. And for those who don't know what Fortnite is, let's give a quick explanation and then kind of just talk us through why it's taken over so much with kids.
Totally, yeah. Fortnite is a new style of game. It's actually the mode of game that it is called Battle Royale. It's this idea, this concept that a large number of players are dropped on a island, essentially, with nothing, and they have to find weapons and support and shield and harvest materials to build structures to protect themselves and to be the last one standing. And so this idea that there can only be one, and there's one victor for Victory Royale. And so it
sounds like Hunger Games.
It's Hunger Games meets Minecraft, if you will, because of the building aspect to it. And Minecraft is also one of those games that has just transcended years upon years upon years. I remember 10 years ago when Minecraft was out, everybody's like, oh, this is so cool. It's so crazy. But now my son, who's 7, is playing Minecraft still today. It is a relevant game even today. And so it's absolutely crazy. And Fortnite is beginning to do that for a few different reasons. One, for this concept and this idea that there can be one winner. It's not a team per se, although that is a mode, but there can be one winner. And it's difficult to win. You have a lot of things going against you. And so the idea of winning such a game, there's a lot of pride and a lot of work and boasting that comes in winning that type of a game. The other thing is it's a fun game just to watch. And because it's a fun game to watch, it is becoming a professional video game. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but this idea of professional video game players who play video games 8 hours a day and get paid very good money to do so are playing this game and similar games, and people are paying to watch these guys play this game. Not just play it themselves, but watch these other people play these games. And so it's a really interesting time for parents and for families and kids who are seeing this and wanting to maybe aspire to being a video game streamer or being somebody who's just consumed with time with this video game, are really kind of the two kind of opposite ends of what parents are having to deal with right now when it comes to games like Fortnite.
And, gaming in general is connected to health issues, lack of exercise, depression, anxiety. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that freaks parents out even more. And I get that. But let's talk about this because I do think it's a tension point as well. Like my son plays Fortnite, loves video games. Both of them do, but one in particular. But that same son is the kind of guy who needs his brain moving at all times. And video games actually serves the way his brain works really well, and lets him, and it also helps him build friendships. There's a lot of positives to gaming. So I think we understand the threats from gaming, but let's talk a little bit about the positives that can come from gaming.
Absolutely. And there are a lot, and a lot of people, and it's very easy to focus on the scary things or the seclusion, the depression, what is violence in video games doing to my kid, right? All of these things are very easy to talk about. It's a lot harder for people to have discussions on how these things might actually be helping our students, right? And so a few different ways that video games help students. One, you've already kind of touched on it, is it helps build friendships. Some students struggle communicating and connecting to people in real life. Now, as somebody who would encourage that, there is still a place to practice building relationships. And if a safe place is through a video game, through talking with a common goal, that's a healthy thing. That's okay. Now, as parents, we still encourage our students to do that in real life? Absolutely. But we can't discount that they are actually building relationships that do mean something through a video game. The other thing is a video game. Video games are, I've heard described depression proof. So no matter what economic, financial struggle society is going through, video games have actually never struggled. What's really interesting about that is that tells us that people are going to invest in this. And because people are going to invest in this, these are things that are going to always be around. And so as moms and dads, these are some great ways for you to actually connect and build a relationship with your student. I'd mentioned earlier, my son plays Minecraft, but he's not allowed to play without dad. And so me and him get to share this experience. We get to build things together. We get to fight, crazy creepers and all these other different things together. And we actually get to spend purposeful time together through a video game because that's what he's interested in. Now, my son's also interested in baseball and soccer. And so we go and do those things outside and together. But video games are a way that we can still connect with our kids in a really cool way. And as parents, we need to not just look at the normal, I'm a coach pitch dad, or I play an instrument. Like, a video game is a hobby that needs to be shared amongst our students.
And it being shared is kind of leads me to my next question, which, because you are also a middle school minister, you're responsible for working with hundreds of families. Mm-hmm. And so I know you get to see from a great perspective. And being a middle school minister, and by the way, children's ministers and youth ministers both are listening to this, and no matter which side of that you're on, middle school is important to you. If you're a children's minister, you need to be preparing them. And if you're a youth minister, you need to be welcoming them and helping them through those middle school years. And I was a middle school minister myself. I remember one of the key things, and I want you to speak to this, is making sure that our kids, especially if they're boys, because gamers are girls. We can talk about that in a second. But the stats will tell you the majority of gamers, intense gamers, are boys. And what can happen is talk about that, the benefits of helping a middle school boy find a pack of friends versus being a loner, and the importance of keeping them, giving them a good pack of friends to run with, because what can happen with video games is they can be isolating, and when they are, that is a huge threat to their development.
Yes, absolutely. I believe the stat is 96% of teenage boys consider themselves gamers, and 83% are girls that consider themselves gamers. And so, yes, guys, definitely. And we know guys are kind of get together and really form relationships around a common goal, right? That's sports is one of those things early on, this idea that, oh yeah, we're going to go around this common goal and this different thing like that. And so video games lends itself to that. And video gaming is one of those things that you may not be the best physical athlete, but a video game may put you on a different level and allow you to make friends and build friends and relationships with other people that you may not otherwise connect with. And when it comes to video games, a lot of them are multiplayer, and the games that our students are playing are specifically multiplayer. This is just a fuel of the idea of hanging out with one another. We don't have to play board games anymore and go to people's houses to hang out over this common task that's before us, but we can do that in our own home. And so as young boys and middle schoolers, they can go online and have conversations and talk and create memories with one another through these games and these expansive worlds that have been created before them. And so they are able to do and to go out and form these relationships, whereas otherwise they may not have that outlet to verbalize and communicate to some other students. And so this is a powerful way for that student that you might consider a loner or an outsider, or in ministry world, a fringe kid who's kind of borderline. But a lot of times, if it's a young man, you might be able to connect and even bring into a new group of friends through video games.
Love it. Good job. We spent time being positive about video games, and I love that, because sometimes I think they get a bad rap. But the reality is we aren't being responsible if we don't talk about some of the threats that they can bring, because they are online, which opens up so many different things. I remember the day that a parent came to me and said, "Did you know that an Xbox has a web browser on it?" And I was like, "Actually, I didn't." And the kid had been looking up bad stuff through his Xbox. And so let's just kind of walk through a little bit of what are some things as ministers we need to make sure that we're educating parents on how to keep their kids safe while they play video games.
Totally. First off, understand what the system, the console, the obviously if they're playing on a computer, understanding all that it can do. An Xbox doesn't necessarily have virtual reality like a PlayStation does if you have those additional components. But all current video game systems, Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, these all have web browsers, and their predecessors also did. So this isn't a new concept. And so where there's a web browser, there's a way to get to inappropriate things. So understand that as moms and dads, that we can't just let them throw the Xbox or the PlayStation in their room, let them close the door, and just let them spend hours on it. And so understand what these things do, number one. Two, make sure as mom and dad, you are setting time limits, parameters, expectations on how long and when they are allowed to do these things. And so I think it is healthy for a student if their grades and their behavior and their attitude is in a positive and in check, that if video games is a passion they have, that they should be able to do that as part of their free time, as part of their hobby, as part of hanging out with their friends. But they should not be able to do that for 12 hours straight just because mom was out of town on Saturday and they just had the TV on and they just played Fortnite for days, right? That's not healthy. Like, that's not a healthy human, let alone spiritually healthy thing that we want our kids to do. So understand that maybe depending on the age of your student, what that amount of time is, whether it be during a school day, a weeknight, or a weekend, may look different. So that's two. So the first one being understand what they do. The second one, knowing how much time they're doing it. And then the third one is where they're doing this. I mentioned earlier not to let them just have free reign in their room on this device. Well, behind a closed door makes it hard for you to casually even see what's going on or to understand what's going on with that. And so putting that in more of a public place in your home so that you can see and observe what they're doing, what they're playing, what these games are, not only just for monitoring, but also for you to have something to talk to them about. This should be a topic of conversation. Tell me about, what you did in Fortnite. Did you get any wins? Is there a new skin or a new emote? Did you play this game, right? What's going on? This is another way to connect and build a relationship with your student on something that they love. And you may have to do some research. We get it. I understand. There are video games that I have students that tell me they're playing, so I go and I download them and check them out. I get it. But understanding that if these are in a public place, moms and dads, you're able to more easily see what's going on and where they are. And then the fourth thing is be careful of who they're becoming friends with online, because a lot of these games and a lot of these systems allow you to create a friends list. And just like social media, you're able to connect and share information and content and even, conversation and gameplay with one another. And if you don't know the people that your student is connecting with in game or even not in a game and just texting or sending voice messages back and forth to, that may be a problem. And so making sure you have a conversation with your student about who are these people, who are these friends? Did you just meet them in a random game? Are they friends from your school? Ultimately, conversation has to be around this. We can't just have conversations about limits around our phones or our tablets or our computers anymore, because video games are just as social in connecting us with one another as our phones are. And so moms and dads and even student ministers need to understand that as they're talking with parents, that knowing who they're interacting with is extremely important.
Man, there's so much to keep up with. Parents get overwhelmed. There's monitoring services, filters, all of these things, and here's another thing: it's always changing. And Tony, if we as ministers, if we just had someone that we could point parents to, that would coach them, maybe jump on Skype with them and give parents a technology plan at home that they could actually do and be with them. If we could bring in somebody who talks to parents all the time about this to our churches to do a seminar, if only that person was out there, and if only they created a website called familytechnologyplan.com and their name was Tony Bianco.
Yes, that is definitely something that I have done. And so some of the things that I have the honor and privilege of doing is churches and conferences and ministries have asked me, even counselors have asked me to come in and share with some families about just managing and monitoring technology in the home and in their family, as well as video games. And even in the Houston area where I'm based, as well as through Skype and different things, I've done family coaching where
you make house visits.
I do. I make house visits, and we walk through and do interactive work where discussion is had and expectations are set for the whole family, even moms and dads, because even moms and dads are a little bit of gamers because of the amount of technology that's on our smartphones. Those carpool lines get awful boring, and moms may be a little bit connected to Candy Crush or might be playing some games that their kids don't even know about, but they are able and they know video games. Just statistically speaking, moms and dads, you are gamers as well. And so connect with your students that way. And if helping you manage this in your home is something that you're interested in, yes, please connect with me at familytechnologyplan.com. There's lots of information and things that I've done, as well as opportunities for you to connect and partner with later.
You guys have been listening to Tony Bianco, who is a middle school minister at a ginormous church in Houston, Texas, but he's also got the background of reviewing software and technology, working in the Apple Store, managing a GameStop. So he is one of the best, most accurate voices on this idea of technology and the world of ministry combined. A great resource for you guys to connect with. And I'm just going to shamelessly tell you, he writes blogs for us also at ministrytoparents.com. He wrote a blog on Apex Legends, the new Fortnite, just for us this the other day, that has been well received, and tons of stuff on Fortnite as well. Tony, hey, thank you so much for being with us, friend. I always enjoy our time together.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I really appreciate all that D6 is doing in the kingdom and ministering to not only parents, but also fellow laborers in the ministry. So I appreciate you as well.
Hey, this is John Forrest, and I've written a book, Help! My Games Stink. It's full of game ideas and icebreakers and team builders that will knock your socks off. Hey, it's the #1 new release in its category on Amazon. Never mind, this category is the smallest one they keep up with. It is awesome. Buy the book, and I will love you forever. I'm not even kidding about that. Check it out at the d6family.com site. Buy the book. Thank you.
Jeremy, you say this all the time, but every ministry leader listening to today's podcast should turn around and send that to the parents in their church.
Yeah, that was a really, really practical one. Tony just lays out so clearly. And I begged him to be practical, and he really, really did. And don't forget, I know we mentioned it, but familytechnologyplan.com is a really cool site. He's got a lot of neat resources on there. He's serious about those house calls. Like,
yeah. Wow.
I don't think I've met anybody who is willing. I mean, if you're in the Houston area, no brainer. He should,
Yeah.
but he'll dive into your personal scenario, which I think parents would value more than anything. But he does it over Skype too. So
Yeah.
That's a really cool resource for families. He would be a great resource as a parent seminar speaker. So
Absolutely.
I hope you guys will connect with Tony.
Yep.
He is great at what he does for sure. And by the way, speaking of great guests, next week we have my other buddy, Dan Istvanik. What a name, right?
Yes.
Istvanik. I have to always do that to be able to spell it. But man, a lot of people might know Dan. He's very kind of active online in social media in the ministry world. So if you're a minister and you're in Facebook groups or online, you might have heard of that name before. But he has a great ministry background, just a solid vet, decades in ministry. But he really comes at it from a I've met a lot of ministers like this. They see ministry as kind of a family service project. And I wanted to dive into that a little bit more, and that is who we'll be talking to next week. We'll be talking to kind of the minister's own family, which, by the way, that is the beginning of family ministry, right?
Yes, it is.
To minister to your own family. So we'll be living in his world for a little bit next week. Thank you guys for listening to us. I hope you'll join us next week, and what I hope most of all is that you have a great week of ministry.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.